Hello. Hello. Good day, everyone, and Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Global CR Forum, Ingram Micro, BRAMS, and IBM, I welcome all the attendees to this virtual summit on Modernize Your SAP Systems. Find your tailored and accelerated path for your cloud journey with IBM. The new technology standard today is cloud computing. Investments made in this technology platform are generating growth for business. The aim is now to move the benefits of the cloud to process management and day-to-day activities. Taking us through today's virtual summit are Sandeep Mahindra, SAP on the Cloud Specialist at BRAMS, Pandyan Athirajan from IBM, IBM Cloud Partner Ecosystem, Expert VMware, SAP and Power Cloud, and Vail Kasravani, Senior Cloud Solution Architect for IBM Cloud Platforms. Before we start this virtual summit, here are some short housekeeping rules. All attendees are on mute throughout the session. So please do post your questions for the speakers to the chat option, and they'll be happy to take questions at the end of the session. I would now like to hand over to Sandeep Mahindra. So Sandeep, all yours. Please to go ahead.
Thank you so much, Arun. Thanks for the nice introduction. I'm just putting my slide on the screen so then we can go more constructive discussion and the presentation. So we are going to discuss about modernize your SAP systems. So first I'll start with the webinar agenda, and the topic is more emphasizing on SAP and how we can modernize SAP on the cloud, specifically the IBM cloud. So I'm coming on the agenda right now. So I'll be giving an opening note right now, and then we have another section for key challenges, another section for SAP on IBM Cloud value proposition, BRAMS SAP on IBM Cloud capabilities, plus the question and answer round at the last. And so these are the speakers will be going to take care of. So I'll be just taking the first the initial level discussion on the speakers. So Pandyan Athirajan is working with IBM ecosystem already discussed, given information by Arun. So he'll be going to talk about the key challenges and use cases in the next slides. So before getting into the next slides, there will be a poll section managed by Arun. So, and there is another section after that. There will be a section around while we'll be taking care of on the value proposition, and then we go for the BRAMS capabilities, and then we'll take in a question and answer round over here. So over to you, Arun, for the poll section.
Thank you, Sandeep. We're launching the first poll. So Sandeep, the first poll is live right now. We invite all the attendees to put in their response in the poll, and they will get consolidated.
So you got the responses, Arun?
Yes, the responses are coming in. Give us another half a minute to aggregate, and it will be displayed on the screen.
Thank you so much.
So Sandeep, the responses are live now on the screen.
Okay. So my screen is presented. So
okay, sure. So when are you planning to migrate SAP to the cloud? Immediate, 14%, 1 to 3 months, 14%, and 4 to 12 months, 14%. All the three options are roughly the same, and in the future is the balance. So the future actually is a little bit longer than 12 months.
Okay, thank you very much for the information. So I'll just now hand over to Pandyan to take care of the use cases and information on the key business challenges. Over to you, Pandyan.
Thank you, Sandeep. This is Pandian Athirajan from IBM. I would like to again start with a couple of case studies and highlight some of the business challenges these customers went through and how IBM SAP Cloud was able to help them. Again, the challenges remain the same for businesses because competition is increasing. The amount of capital required, they want to spend less and less. Given the challenges, given the new technologies they have to face, and how did these companies overcome that with IBM? Let's start with Coca-Cola European Partners. This is one of the largest bottling plant for Coca-Cola in Europe. They basically have 19,000 suppliers and they have 1 million customer outlet and serving 13 markets and employing around 24,000 people based out of UK. It's one of the largest based on the revenue. The challenge they went through is basically given that IoT technologies that is catching up and the stream of data there that's coming in, they would like to have the flexibility to scale up when needed, as well as reduce the operational cost and increase the resiliency of the SAP infrastructure. And they came to IBM. Again, first of all, when they came to IBM, they said, hey, we are going to start with a very small POC. We want to see how IBM Cloud performs before we embark on full-blown dev system and then production system. We were very successful right from the beginning when they started off small POC and went all the way up to production system. And that production system is much more complex. And they have a lot of data that they need to filter in. They want to merge those data with the SAP data to get the real-time analytics on what is going on so that they can improve and service their customers at high efficiency. That's one example where IBM SAP Cloud helped this customer to provide the highest and robust IT infrastructure to run their SAP applications. Moving to the next slide, again, another customer. This is a global Omnium. This company is providing the fresh drinking water to citizens of Spain. They serve around 3 million people in Spain, and they have basically operations starting from the dam, drawing the water, storing that in reservoir. So that means they have reservoirs, they have pumps, they have pipelines, they have pumping stations, they have water filtering stations. They have a bunch of plants which have been embedded with a lot of IoT sensors, and they needed a robust IT infrastructure where they can analyze the data along with the SAP and then keep those operational plants in the optimum condition, because they would like to do the predictive maintenance, because they can't afford to stop providing water to the citizen. It will be a big news in the newspaper in the very next day. So they wanted to have all kinds of they put all kinds of IoT sensors in the plant, and they were taking all the data and they're combining that with the SAP system to reduce the overall cost of maintaining all these plants. In fact, they were able to achieve energy cost of close to $1 million per year. And in that process of moving their SAP applications to cloud, they also reduced their IT infrastructure cost by 15%. The next slide is we'll also talk about another well-known brand that we work with in Australia. This is again Mitsubishi. Again, they had a very high reduction in the potential downtime for DR, and they were able to get excellent scale-up capabilities using SAP Cloud. Again, the reason I'm saying all this well-known brands is basically how these companies have benefited in reducing their operational cost, in reducing their IT infrastructure cost, and improving the reliability of the applications by moving to cloud. Again, another thing I would like to emphasize, is moving to cloud is not just lift and shift. I'm going to talk about it. But before I do that, Sandeep, if you can go to the next slide, there are a lot of other case studies. I mean, I only talked about Coca-Cola, I talked about Mitsubishi, but there are a lot of case studies with large customers around the globe who have benefited in using the IBM SAP cloud infrastructure. Going to the next slide. Sandeep, can you go to the next slide, please? Again, these are the examples I talked about. Why did I say that this large customer client examples? Because this for them, moving to cloud is not just lift and shift, as I mentioned earlier. And another thing they are facing was 2027 is looming. And people know what 2027 means because SAP is asking all their ECC customer to move to S4 HANA before 2027. And you will be surprised to know that more than 80% of the customers have not even started that move. They are still either in the planning stage, or they're not even thinking about it, or they're saying that I need to have a completely new installation of S4 HANA so that whatever mistakes or whatever deficiencies I have in the ECC can be overcome in the new S4 system. Sandeep, moving to the next slide. In addition to that one, they're basically thinking it's just not moving to S4 HANA is their main strategy. Their strategy is, along with moving to S4 HANA, what else I can do with the latest technologies? It can be IoT, it can be blockchain, it can be data analytics, or it can be AI. And all those technologies they want to leverage to what they are looking at, a digital transformation that is their main strategy as a company so that they can remain competitive. Going to the next slide. And in addition to those new technologies, in addition to that saving the cost, they also seeing that the changes that are happening within the SAP application itself. Again, we all know that ECC that have been using the commercial databases has gone to using the HANA database, and then the whole application is going to drastic changes through S4 HANA. Again, the release, the product update, product capabilities you get in cloud is much quicker than what you're going to get in on-prem edition. That's number one change. Number two, the changes on business processes. The business processes that are being used by the company, that's how you configure in the S4, it's also changing. The implementation methods are changing. Basically, customers want faster time to value. What it means is in ECC, you would have seen a lot of cases where companies took 3, 4, 5, 6 years pouring in hundreds of millions of dollars. Those days have gone. Now customers want everything quick. It has to happen quickly. In addition to that one, they would like to extend their SAP applications using the modern DevOps technologies so that they can get additional benefits. How can you do all these things? How can you manage all these things is going to be a biggest challenge for the customer. So going to the next slide, Sandeep.
Yeah.
Again, this is basically, I put the foundations of changes happening in the SAP, the business challenges, as well as the challenges that is coming through the new technologies. All the things, if you want to handle it properly, to derive the benefits and to cope with the strategy of your digital transformation, the first thing you need to think about is the cloud. That's the easiest way. There is no other way you'll be able to handle all the challenges that have been put in front of you. Going to the next slide, Sandeep.
Yep.
That's why I talk about migrating to a cloud is the very first step. And that is not the only step to meet these challenges I described earlier. Because once you migrate to cloud, that's the first step is done. The next step is going to be, how are you going to optimize your IT landscape? Because at the end of the day, your IT landscape should be running at a lesser cost, provide the robust infrastructure you're looking for, provide that resilience you're looking for, so that your business can run efficiently 24/7. Once that is optimized, the other next step you are going to look for is how do you transform your business? Because the business needs to be changed to change with the changes that is happening in the competitive landscape of your business. And once that is done, because once you have to meet the challenges, what you have to do is how do you do the innovation? How do you get the real-time update on what is going on in your operations of the company? All those changes can happen is by moving to the cloud, and look at the lift and shift, and migrating to cloud is a very first step. And in the next few sections, where my colleague and Sandeep is going to take you through, we are going to tell you how IBM SAP Cloud will help you. And Sandeep is going to talk about how the services provided by BRAMS going to help you to achieve some of the objectives you have in mind. With that, Sandeep.
Thank you so much, Pandyan. So, Arun, there will be a poll section after this, and I'll start the next section.
So Sandeep, the next poll is launched and it's on the screen of the attendees. We invite all the attendees to take part in the poll so that the findings can be aggregated and we can look at the overall trend. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So Sandeep, the results are now available, and if I can read it out for you, it says on-premise 60%, cloud 20%, and hybrid 20%. And DR
Thank you so
0%.
much, Arun. So next section. Okay, thank you so much. So next section, there is another panelist. His name is Weil. So he's going to discuss about IBM Cloud overview from the SAP perspective. What are the certified solutions are available? Environment is available with respect to SAP, and he's going to talk about why IBM Cloud is important in terms of SAP workloads and the innovations, and what are the cloud along with the SAP cloud solutions like SuccessFactors and Ariba, other areas. So he's going to discuss more about in detail. Then I will take it to the last section for SAP as well as the IBM and our services. Over to you, Weil. I'm switching to next slide.
Thank you, Sandeep, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So my name is Wael Kasrawani. I'm a certified cloud solutions architect at IBM, and I've had more than 10 years experience supporting enterprises moving to the cloud, cloud adoption and app modernization journeys, across different industries. So today my section of this webinar is really covering two main parts. First of all, I would like to introduce IBM cloud capabilities in general, what we have, how it's structured, and what capabilities are available. And the second part is focusing on the SAP capabilities themselves, what's being offered in terms of services, how we're providing them, and the related use cases. So to begin with, I'd just like to set the high-level view of what IBM public cloud is and how it's being positioned. So from a cloud perspective, IBM has recently invested heavily into building up our public cloud capabilities. We've reached over 60 data centers globally. We have nearly 200 services across IaaS and PaaS. It's a huge portfolio and catalog to cover. And really, there's three main pillars that structure the cloud catalog. The first one, we focus on open innovation. And what this means is, we're increasing innovation while reducing costs. The cloud platform itself has been built mainly on Kubernetes. It's using cloud-native technologies. CI/CD and security is all natively built in to support the platform. The second one is also crucial to IBM, which is around security. And we've built it in a way that today IBM provides one of the highest security encryption standards available on the public cloud. This is the FIPS 140-2 level 4. A lot of our banking clients, government clients, they all dictate that we need such level of encryption. It allows things like keeping your own key, not just bring your own key, so you have full control on your data and your visibility. And the third one is around what we call enterprise grade. Again, here we're leveraging your existing investments. We work with a lot of enterprises. We know, the likes of Power, AIX, Z, customers from IBM are now able to leverage these technologies on the cloud. If you're a VMware customer, we have a very close partnership with VMware, so you can leverage your existing licenses, environments, and easily migrate. And of course, SAP is crucial, which is what we're deep diving into today. All of this platform is supported SLA-wise as a standard, simple manner. It's either 3 nines for the standard implementations, or if it's a HA service, it's 4 nines across these services. And industry-wise, we've been really recognized across the board, especially in the last year or two, where IBM has excelled. The likes of Forrester, Nucleus, and others have all awarded IBM Cloud for the innovation. Next slide, please, Sandeep. Okay, so focusing a bit on the catalog itself, I mentioned there's nearly 200 services, but there's different layers that are covered as part of these services. Taking it from the lower end, you have your infrastructure as a service. This comes in as your standard cloud virtual machines. We have a unique capability in IBM, which is bare metal as a service. This is completely private, isolated with full control. If you're a Power user or a Z user, there's availability of these services on the cloud, as well as VMware as a service that's really advanced on IBM Cloud. And the idea is once you build the IS stack, now you're able to leverage the foundation layer, the cloud native layers on top, whether it's Kubernetes, CI/CD, serverless technologies, or Terraform, infrastructure as code, and etc. And then you're able to add the Red Hat OpenShift layer, which is really the hybrid solution from IBM. This is where you're able to build between a public cloud data center and on-premise data center and be able to integrate the two in a standard way without having to cross-scale and change tools. It simplifies the whole process. So next slide, please, Sandeep. Right, so I wanted to focus on 3 key areas where IBM differentiates in the cloud space. So I talked about Kubernetes. So we are really leading in this edge where we've built the platform Kubernetes. We have native IBM Kubernetes as a service, as well as Red Hat as a service, Red Hat OpenShift. So IBM will fully manage and you just deploy your containers. And this is really supporting all these app modernization use cases that many of us in the industry are seeing today. What's really exciting actually is IBM recently announced IBM Cloud Satellite. So a lot of us ask us about locations and we need to keep data locally or behind our firewalls. We have sensitive data. And satellite is really crucial in bridging that gap where you can basically extend the public cloud capability to behind your firewall. So you can spin up services, you can spin up managed databases, containers behind your firewall. Your data remains secure, but at the same time, you're using that public catalog. You have the cloud native services, cloud native capabilities, and you control it from a unified dashboard. So this is crucial to supporting a lot of the businesses today. The second one is around security. So 2 key areas there is we launched a service called IBM Cloud Hyper Protect service. And this is what I mentioned earlier about the security in the cloud. This is one of the highest security encryption. It lets you keep your own keys and only you have access to the data. The second is around bare metal. So we give you a dedicated bare metal server. I know that this is, depending on the industry, a lot of financial institutions, government institutions, they have regulations that say, I can't share my environment even on the cloud with anyone else. That's where this dedicated server comes in. We give you root access. You have full control and visibility of it. The third one is, our leadership in the VMware environment. We understand, many clients today are already heavily invested in VMware, so we bridge that gap and we've built a hybrid cloud approach where you can, there's a use case where you can even move a VM while it's running to the cloud with almost 0 downtime as part of these capabilities. And of course, IBM Power is now available on the cloud if you're planning to run SAP databases, etc. If you're using them today on premise, now you're able to run the same on IBM Cloud, and IBM will treat it as a service And I'll talk about this in a bit, but we have now SAP certified systems available on these platforms. Okay, so let's focus a bit on SAP and what IBM is doing. Some quick facts today. IBM is running 125 HANA customers today, production. 350 ECC customers are running SAP on IBM Cloud. And resource-wise, they're consuming 1 petabyte of memory across our data centers, and we have 10,000 hosts just to provide this environment for our clients. And this is amounting to 20 petabytes of data. It's a huge environment, a lot of support, and we provide cross-vertical and cross-industry capabilities. Most of our clients are using SAP, typically have more than 10,000 employees, so really big organizations. I mentioned financials, banks, government, all of these really big organizations are running their crucial, sensitive SAP systems on IBM Cloud. Next slide, please, Sandeep. Okay, so offering-wise, it's really broken down into different capabilities. So what we see on the left side here is the bare metal. So I talked about having this dedicated bare metal. These are SAP certified systems, whether it's HANA or BW. They're available with a range of different configurations. We recently launched bare metal plus Intel Octane. This is for high in-memory execution. It gives you really fast performance, designed for high performance SAP production environments, high memory, high transactions, and this is within the dedicated SAP certified server. The other one is around the VMware side. So today, IBM is the only hyperscale cloud provider that supports running SAP certified systems on production VMware. You can think about running things like vHANA appliances now. You can start consolidating and optimizing these environments. Rather than having a dedicated HANA box for multiple databases, you can consolidate on a single VMware environment, and you run these vHANA appliances, and really brings down the TCO aspects. And the third side here is around virtual machines. So now we start looking at cloud native capabilities. So you can spin up, a virtual machine. This is our cloud native VMs on IBM Cloud, and these are certified on SAP systems today, as well as you can run Power as well, Power virtual machines or LPARs, and these are also SAP certified, and they're running on Power 9, which is a really high performance systems available on the cloud. Numbers-wise, just quickly touching on this, HANA is can scale to a really large amount with us. So we can see up to 12 terabytes of RAM. Huge appliances are running, or you can start as small as 192 gig RAM. And basically, you can start small and grow, or if you have specific requirements, they can jump in with these large appliances. Same with NetWeaver, scales from 32 GB RAM to 3 terabytes. And we support a lot of different operating systems, whether it's SUSE, Red Hat, AIX, all of these are certified to host these landscapes. And it varies basically on the SAP applications that you're running, whether it's HANA, BW, Business One supported, Data Hub, Business Objects. And we have an NEDB capability. So whether you haven't migrated to HANA or using HANA, we still support those use cases. So we have customers running SQL, DB2, Oracle still. And once they're ready to take that step for the HANA upgrades, these appliances are ready to support it. So location-wise, I mentioned we have this huge footprint globally. In our region, mainly we're using Europe as target locations where most of our clients are using these systems. We have two what we call multi-zone regions in Europe. One is in Frankfurt, another one is in UK, in London. And multi-zone means you have at least three regions, which are physical data centers or interconnected, to give you really high availability. So some of the use cases that we're seeing is around DR. Actually, I'm surprised not many are considering DR on the cloud. It's very common in our region. And customers typically, if you're running production in a specific location, you can put DR in another location. And something unique about IBM is you have free resource replications. You don't pay for traffic once you move from one location to another, which is quite unique. So for example, if you're running production in London today, you can put DR in Frankfurt. And if you're using the private backbone of IBM, this is completely unmetered and free of charge. And a lot of our customers are leveraging this to tailor for this global footprint, wherever their customers are. So quickly on the performance today, IBM has won a lot of records in terms of the fastest performance on SAP. And you can see this chart compares some of the different ranges, whether it's 6 terabytes, 1.5 or 0.25 terabytes. The power systems of SAP came up really on top. One of the highest SAPs that has been benchmarked, and these are figures that came from SAP themselves. That link is mentioned there. Again, on the 6 TB range, IBM came top. 1.5 TB came top. So you're really getting a lot of SAP's performance for your resources purely because of that high performance available on IBM. Okay, so in terms of the marketplace itself, of course, you've got the SAP certification, the hardware, the infrastructure services, but we're also building up our ecosystem. So today, out of the catalog, you're able to spin up an F5 if you need a load balancer. This is SAP tuned. It's got intelligent L4 to L7 traffic management. We have integrations with Veeam. If you're planning to do SAP HANA backups, for example, Veeam is fully supporting HANA databases now, also available as a catalog item. ActiveView is another backup option. If you're looking at a backup solution for your SAP landscape, this is a great solution as well and supports HANA and SAP landscapes. And HighTrust is specifically focused for the crucial compliance-based industry. If you're looking at geofencing, security, encryption, HighTrust really ensures that you get these compliances ticked off and gives you those capabilities. Okay, so how do we bring this together? So taking a typical example here, like a client's manufacturing plant. We talked about a similar example earlier. We have a lot of these IoT sensors, whether it's pressure, temperature, or camera. These typically feed in that sort of middleware section. This is where IBM event streams is there. This is for message queuing. And this is where the SAP Data Hub solution fits in to process all these events as they come in. And then in parallel, you'll see that Watson machine learning. Watson's IBM's artificial intelligence capabilities. So it provides things like visual recognition. It's able to take that camera feeds, video or pictures, you'll feed it to a visual recognition AI capability, and it's able to correlate the data, extracts insights. It can do things like safety checks or intrusion, or it picks up a lot of data around what's being handled. And these are all correlated and fed in that backend landscape where IBM Cloud is hosting the SAP details, the app capability. And we leverage what we call IBM Cloud Object Storage. This is typically hosting long-term data, archive data, and or just a data store. It's one of the cheapest storage options if you see it that way on the cloud to support your environment. All right, so next slide, please, Sandeep. Okay, so why IBM? In general, we talked about IBM being having a different capability, different range of products to suit the different entry points. Whether you want to start small, you want to grow bigger, there's a lot of different flexible options. We're uniquely positioned as a multi-cloud, multi-platform capability on the cloud. So, for example, if you're using x86 and Power and Z, these are able to be integrated in one location. We support over 1,000 enterprise clients, so we have a lot of experience and expertise in this area. We have a huge security leadership with our top encryption capabilities. And we have over 37,000 SAP certified professionals to support your different use cases as they span across the cloud. So I think with this, Sandeep, I can hand over back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wael. Sure. Arun, I think there will be another poll, then we'll start the discussion on the assessment areas.
Sure, Sandeep. So the third poll is now on the screen. And once again, we invite all attendees to take part in the poll and put their preferences so that we can aggregate the results. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, Sandeep, the results have been aggregated and displayed on the screen. So, out of the 4 options, starting with the one at the top, skills is rated at 33%, regulations at 17, network challenges 17, and security again at 33%. So, essentially, skills and security being the biggest challenge.
Okay.
Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So thanks, Weil and Pandin, to give a overview on the IBM Cloud. I want to touch upon a couple of areas with respect to the SAP. So if you look at from cloud perspective, SAP is also having their HANA Cloud platform and a database platform over there, where the other cloud application is all there. So in between there is a digital core and it's connected to the cloud solutions, which is acquired by SAP. And there will be hand-in-hand API integration, which is very important in terms of the digital transformation. And some areas like you touch upon the DevOps area, OpenShift, that's really help the customer to do the digital transformation journey and make it reality in the daily operation to the end-to-end cycle. Let's example the intelligent supply chain management or industrial IoT or IoT. We can utilize all those stuff. But it makes sense when we have a discussion with the customer, what exactly the business problem we are going to solve. These capabilities really helping us to resolve all this business problem for the customer. I'm just going back to the first poll where customers, I think, selected most of the 33 or 34% around the on-premise situation. So I agree with the Pandin that lift and shift is just it's the first step to the cloud, but it's beyond infrastructure, because then you have a application modernization, some of the workload you can utilize, containerization and DevOps, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of other services which Weil just mentioned, which can be utilized to resolve the business problem and to go in the digital transformation journey and prioritize accordingly, because solutions are there, but we need to understand the business problem and which solution is going to help the customer to make that reality for the customer when it comes to the solution. So coming back to the same situation where the lift and shift scenario, when with respect to the SAP applications, there are multiple scenarios are there. I'm going back to the SAP native slide, which is on ABCD4 scenarios, lift and shift. Brownfield, as Pandyan mentioned, about 80% of SAP customers still need to go to S/4HANA, but some of the users, the customers, they are on NEDB, they are on HANA, they are on S/4HANA, different version. And I understand there are a lot of changes are coming in SAP when it comes to the S/4HANA. They are releasing every quarter a new release on the roadmap in different industry verticals. So let's focus on the sports section. I'll take upon the first scenario, which is the NEDB from lift and shift scenario, and we can just touch base again on the cloud journey side. So if you look at some of the brownfield situations are there where we have a lift and shift to the cloud, we have lift and migrate where the NEDB and HANA migration will be there. And some customer will be saying, okay, we would like to go on the cloud, then later on we go on the migration. It depends upon the situation, the scenario from the customer side. They are on NEDB, let's say SQL Server. There's some DMO migration strategy given by and certified by SAP. We can utilize on the cloud, and IBM definitely is supporting on all those migration strategy from SAP and certified. We can also go for the greenfield implementation for S/4HANA. So as SAP said, by 2020, discontinuing the support of SAP ECC, and so people has to go for S/4HANA. So we are there to support you on that journey, and these are the scenarios. It not only for the SAP ERP, BW, and other area where there we can help on different scenarios. So this first step. Then after that, we can talk about application modernization, like we are talking about data hubs, which we can utilize in OpenShift, and we can utilize in different scenarios of the business scenarios to be solved. So these are the areas we can work on digital transformation. Going back to the capabilities. So as in Bruns, we resolve a couple of problems for the customer. Not only the lift and shift, some of the scenarios where we optimize their cost of the infrastructure by converting their native application in a platform as a service. Sometimes when we go for a SAP environment, it has a hand-in-hand communication between SAP and non-SAP applications. Sometimes they are integrated with the cloud applications, maybe CRM cloud-based application or HR, success factors, trace. So we are looking at the case where we actually doing a proper assessment. That assessment is very, very critical scenario where we need to understand the business case, what's exactly customers looking for, what are the goals are there, and how we can help them to modernize their infrastructure. At the same time, what are the application we can further later on we can convert as a platform and utilize for their business need the other cloud services on the IBM platform. So on these areas, we helping the customer on the IBM cloud integrations. We take care of the network security. When we do all this assessment, we make sure when we're doing the sizing in the assessment, we look at the early watch alert reports, what is the need of the business. For non-SAP, we use the proper assessment tool, and we are making a proper business case. We are giving information to the customer on technical benefits, business benefits, as well as the financial benefits as an overall business case to make their life easier to go on the cloud. To doing all this exercise, we have a certified team in-house available with us. We recently delivered one assignment on IBM for specifically for nowadays, due to COVID-19, people are looking at the digital transformation, people working from home, and the cost optimization is also one of the biggest, the key factor for them to decide on the cloud. So we are helping the customer on different verticals. We have been into the cloud from last 11 years in UAE and more than 20 years over and all as an entity. Bruns Technology, we have a headquarter in Switzerland, and we have all this capability, and we are more than happy to help you on the SAP workload deployment on IBM Cloud. We have a lot of scripts available, which are accelerators. Those accelerators is designed Ansible and Terraform, and we are using IBM semantic services in order to expedite the deployment of the SAP workload. So we can easily spin up the SAP workloads, not in a months or weeks. We can sometimes, it depends upon the case-to-case basis, we can spin up the environment for the greenfield in 30 minutes, one instance, or maybe 2 days or 3 days. It depends upon case-to-case basis. So going back to the managed operation services, because once you through with the services, their managed service is very, very crucial part of the cloud managed areas. So we are taking care of the compliance application, IBM applications, Oracle database. So when we go into the customer side, we look at the environment, we take the inventory and assessment. So it's not sometimes the SAP workloads is there, Oracle workload is there, and we're using IBM infrastructure to take care of the assessment and taking the lift and shift scenario initially. Then we one by one optimize the complete cloud infrastructure after the first migration. So let's example a few things. The database also, IBM is providing a DB as a managed services, how we can consolidate the DB, we can optimize the licensing cost, we can do a lot of app modernization, different technology like SAP, or maybe some application which can be replaced with the service as a platform on IBM services. So all these activities, once we through with the lift and shift scenario, we make a proper roadmap for the customer, and going on, we for a year we define this digital transformation journey and take care of all these activities in our managed services and lift and shift scenarios. So this is in a nutshell from my side, and we are more than happy to have a free assessment, proof of concepts along with IBM Cloud, discovery workshop sessions, business case and commercial proposal as indicative. You can reach out to us. We have some year-end promotions is going on with IBM Cloud, and you can reach out to me on sap@bruns.com. And now we can open house for the questions. Arun, would you like to take it up?
Yes, thank you, Sandeep. A few questions have come in, and if you would like to invite Pandian and Weil also to come to switch on their webcams, we can have a short discussion around the questions.
Should I close the slides now?
Yes, I think you can close the slide. We'll take over the control. So welcome, Ms. Pandian, and welcome, Weil. So there are, I see 2-3 questions around the SAP side and maybe one question around IBM Cloud. So first question is there any greenfield S4 HANA on the cloud? I presume this is in a regional context. So over to you, Sandeep, and then you can invite the other people.
Okay, so greenfield, they're asking for what's exactly the case. They're asking for any use case, or they're asking for how we can do for S4HANA greenfield on IBM Cloud.
So I guess they're asking about, is there any existing or planned greenfield S4 HANA on the cloud?
I think, Sandeep, it
So
must be a greenfield implementation.
Yeah, greenfield implementation on the IBM Cloud, there are a lot of cases are there. We have done recently one assignment. We are doing S4HANA migration for them. So it's a kind of brownfield. But sometimes customer is saying we don't want to get into the migration. We want to do fresh implementation. We have 1 or 2 cases in Europe, not in UAE as of now. We have in UAE as bronze for SAP ECC.
So Sandeep, maybe I can expand on this a bit from the IBM Cloud perspective. We have, talking about GCC specifically in the region, we have one of the major airlines in the region today running their DR system on IBM Cloud. And this is, running huge SAP HANA appliances, BW appliances. And you can imagine how big these airline systems are. And this is currently running in one of our data centers. The other example is an electric company. I think Pandian mentioned it in one of his references, maybe didn't call it out. They're called JEPCO in Jordan. So they're also running their SAP systems on IBM Cloud, and they're doing replications, both to cloud and back. This is more of a hybrid aspect, though I wouldn't call it a greenfield approach. Of course, we have smaller clients running things like Business One appliances and other small pieces, maybe as a greenfield, but these are relatively small.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Pandian, any thoughts on brownfield versus greenfield implementation? How does the customer actually benefit for a greenfield jump in? I know you're an expert on the implementation and strategy side.
It's definitely depends on what the customer strategic direction is, Arun. There are some customers do not want to spend a lot of money, or maybe because of the pandemic constraints, they would like to maintain whatever the configurations, customization they have done on ECC, but they want to reduce the operational cost. Then they just want to move from on-prem to cloud, but use the HANA database instead of the commercial database. That is one approach. The second approach is, as I mentioned earlier, some customers said, hey, I already customized ECC, but it is not meeting what I am looking for, but I would like to completely redo the whole thing. I would rather redo it on S4 HANA on the cloud. And that's another approach. And then there are some customers leaning towards this kind of strategy as well. But there are other customers we are seeing that I would like to move to cloud on HANA as a short gap, maybe like run it on for 1 or 2 years, want to feel comfortable running on cloud, then migrating to the S4 HANA. So we are seeing around the globe, we are seeing the different kinds of strategies, again, based on customers' economic situations, based on customer strategic directions, and based on availability of data centers in that region they are located.
Very
Sandeep.
Interesting. Yes, sure, Sandeep. And I guess brands would also have the solutions for greenfield, brownfield. Go ahead, Sandeep.
So you asked for the difference. I have spent almost 14 years in SAP ecosystem, and I have seen in SAP ECC, the customer is doing a lot of custom development on ABAP framework. And whatever they're not able to see in SAP, because sometimes they're not following the SAP best practices. This is a use case actually I'm giving you from the real scenario. So when they go for SAP S4HANA conversion, there is from SAP, they're giving a proper guideline and path to the customer that you can go from ECC to S4HANA as conversion mode. So it's giving a proper business case. But when it comes to the ABAP custom development, there's a lot of remedies they have to clean up. because the custom code, it depends upon individual acumen level. Suppose if I'm the developer, I know this is the business problem I have to solve, so I will take the things here and there and make a small program as a Z program in a table. But when you go for S/4HANA, the data structure is completely changed. They combine a lot of tables from ECC. There are a lot of table when it comes to the material management, they comes to the warehouse management, financials. They consolidate the information because the HANA is a columnar database and it's used as OLTP and OLAP together. So it's giving a immediate intelligence via in memory. So when people go for the S/4HANA conversion, they are facing a lot of challenges comes to the object, the custom object development and remedies. So sometimes people thinking of, I have more than 300, 400 Z developments. Why I need to get into the remedies area? Let me go for a fresh implementation, because people who develop the application, they are no more longer with the organization. So it depends upon individual customers. I again, because it depends case to case basis. You cannot there are a lot of strategy to go on the migration or the fresh implementation, but it's as a consulting and advisory, it's our job to educate the customer, inform the customer, guide the customer in a right manner which will be beneficial for the organization. Sometimes S/4HANA conversion is more beneficial most of the time, but there is a small hiccup on the custom code remedy, right? So if they have a right partner, people go for S/4HANA conversion, which is a parallel. But customers sometimes think, no, my system is I'm not comfortable from the management perspective. They will be thinking, no, I would like to go fresh implementation. So it's a sometimes management call, technical perspective, all the paths are available from SAP, and IBM is supporting underlying infrastructure for SAP. But from the application functional point of view, it's advisory company like us and IBM educate the customer, which will be beneficial for their digital transformation journey as a contribution, not as a one of the roadblock, and then they were still thinking of. So we will educate the customer and guide in this journey. Am I right, Pandyan? Would you like to highlight something over here?
I think you covered it correctly, Sandeep. I think to add to what you said was, it's basically the customer biggest hesitation is they are used to certain way of working, so they would like to get a third party confirmation. Hey, how moving to S/4HANA will I get the same kind of functionality? What functionality I have, what customization I have done, how can I transfer this to the S/4HANA? I think that's where folks like Bram's team come into play. I mean, definitely they need the guidance of the partner, who has done the implementation. Basically, it's a strategy session before you even embark into whether you need brownfield or greenfield. They need a strategy session with the implementer, with their partner, to decide what is best for their business.
So I can see it's a definitely a complicated decision requiring more technology and strategy. And Sandeep, the more deep dive you go into this, the more deeper are the questions, and there are a lot of not a lot, but a few more deep dive questions are coming in. So let's keep the answer a little short because time is also short. Second question is, how easy is it for ECC migration to the S/4HANA on a cloud? Does it require customization, programs, etc., etc.? I think the question is a bit short, but hopefully you guys should be able to answer it. Over to you, Sandeep, first.
Okay, I'll touch upon quickly. SAP ECC, when we go on the cloud, we go as it is, lift and shift. No change, nothing. Program as it is, the custom program. When it comes to the S/4HANA journey, we will be keeping landscape as it is, take a clone copy. From that clone copy, okay, we'll start the migration as a sandbox. We'll showcase to the customer, and there are some tools are available which helps the customer when you go for S/4HANA migration, what are the programs needs to be go into the remedy cycle from the custom object perspective. If that's too complete for the customer, they don't want to change, it's very critical, then it depends upon customer to customer. So it becomes an exercise of the assessment. In the cloud, we can go lift and shift, and then we talk about sandbox based for S/4HANA, showcase to the customer, they are okay, then we go on the proper migration journey, one by one. We start from the sandbox, dev, quality, production, and so forth. Accordingly, we go, because we need to understand what's the business downtime and all this stuff. I hope I covered it in a shorter way.
Pandian and Wael, go ahead, please.
I think what Sandeep outlined is the right approach, Arun. Basically, you lift and shift. If you are going to keep the same ECC, lift and shift again, you migrate the app, then migrate the data, again go into the sandbox, because you want to ensure that everything is working fine, whether the data is captured, and once the sandbox is done, if anything else need to be fixed, go through the dev, test, and then pre-prod and prod cycle. And again, this is just lift and shift and continue to operate on ECC. But if customer says, I would like to move to S4 HANA, then it's a completely different set of consulting, because what processes need to be changed, what processes you want to get rid of, how workflow needs to be changed. Again, we can go deep into this, what kind of data structures you would like to have, what kind of data tables you would like to have. I mean, all those discussions need to take place. I think moving to S4 HANA is a much longer discussion with the customer to understand what they're looking for, what they want to get rid of, or get rid of it, and then how they want to improve their current operations. That's a much longer consulting cycle, strategy cycle, working out the expenses, working out how it needs to be implemented. Whereas lift and shift is straightforward, and you can just do it right away and probably put it back into production, again, depending upon the size, very quickly.
Sure. Well, any thoughts on that? Anything you would like to add?
Yes. So, you know, I agree with the comments made, but I'd just like to shed some light here on a common question, I guess, asked to me in terms of migration. So do you upgrade first, or do you move to the cloud first and then upgrade? And this is a common one, and normally it needs a strategic discussion. But I want to raise the point here that this is exactly where the public cloud capability comes into play to support, because now with the cloud as a service capability, you know, you don't have to commit to resources up front. You have easy billing models, so you can spin up an environment in parallel, you can test it, you can make sure everything's fine, and gives you flexibility to transition at your own pace, rather than, you know, taking the upgrade first approach and having to commit to costs and timing ahead of time. So this is really the benefit of cloud coming into play and supporting you with these financial and capabilities.
Thank you. Well, so just another question, and it didn't actually show up in your slides about the data residency. How is that being addressed on a regional basis? Would you like to comment something there? Well, over to you for the IBM Cloud.
Yeah, I think I touched on this briefly, and this is how we're targeting this new offering that I mentioned. It's called IBM Cloud Satellite, and with Cloud Satellite, you know, wherever there is data restrictions or data residency requirements, we're positioning Cloud Satellite to be the platform that extends the cloud capability to whether it's behind your firewall or a local DC location, and we'll support it this way. So we can definitely support these use cases, and Satellite will be the way forward.
Sure, thank you. So the continuing on the SAP to HANA, and this is around again IBM support. If you are migrating an SAP ERP HANA system from on-premise to cloud, how would the customer connect to these systems? Do you need to publish your ERP to public or set up VPN to connect to the cloud system? Does IBM provide a complete solution for this? So essentially talking about, as I can see, whether the VPN is part of the whole solution, or I guess publish the ERP. So there's quite a few things in there. Sandeep, would you like to start?
Yeah. So we can have a site-to-site connectivity. We need to understand what customer is looking at. Nowadays, people are asking for site-to-site connectivity. We recently done an assignment and point-to-site connectivity. In that, we are using VPN and we are using Juniper Firewall at the IBM site, and it should be hand-in-hand communication with the on-site connectivity with site-to-site. Similarly, there are a lot of we just did an assignment. So in that assignment, people based on the customer preferences, we use SSL certificate as well. So we need to understand from the connectivity point of view, the terminology is very simple: site-to-site connectivity, point-to-site connectivity, VPN, and then SSL certificate. These are the connectivities are there. But it will be applied to the customer based on the customer preferences. They want people working from home, then connected to totally different. what kind of encryption we want to put on the SAP environment for the individual users. It is site to site. So all these functions are available on the cloud. Maybe while can touch upon other connectivities areas on the firewall parameters, in maybe role-based, access to the machines, jump server, not giving direct access. In case of Fiori on SAP, then it's a web dispatcher is there. So web dispatcher is like public cloud. There the people are going on the browser and it's giving the access to the individual. So depend on the scenario to scenario. From cloud perspective, all the connectivity options are quite common on all the cloud, but there are changes on what I've seen in IBM cloud. They're using native firewalls. We can bring your own license. You can utilize that, and they have a lot of encryption. Even they don't have an access directly to their data and all this stuff. While clearly touch upon those areas. So security point of view, all these connectivity, when giving access to the public domain, and giving to the site to site, all this come into the picture. I think while can better address in depth, because I'm coming from the application side, he can better address the infrastructure network side.
Absolutely, Sandeep. Security is crucial to any solution that we design on the cloud. And typically, before hosting anything, we have to get the connection set up in a secure manner. So most of our clients, they demand a sort of private, isolated environment on the cloud. And the only external facing aspect would be through that VPN, through that secure gateway. And if it's a web-facing application, that's a different layer that even comes on top. So we have things like DDoS prevention, caching, intrusion prevention capabilities. So there's different layers you have to target, whether it's application, whether it's infrastructure, whether the networking. And as Sandeep said, we have from a firewall perspective, it could be the likes of Juniper, FortiGate, native bring your own capabilities. It's quite flexible. And we have native security controls in place. We just launched our security and compliance center to also support and enhance these environments. The idea is you first create that security bubble, if you like, make sure everything is isolated and dedicated, and then you start the migration and ensure you're targeting a secure environment.
Sure. Thank you, Well. So Pandian, anything you would like to add over there?
I think Weil and Sandeep covered this very well, Arun. Thank you.
It's a valid point. Security should start at the same time, not as an afterthought. I come to the last question coming in from the participants, and let me just go to that. Actually, second last, I don't know if we'll have time. We have C4C system on the cloud and ECC on premises. How can we achieve the next stage? Go ahead, Sandeep. I think you want to take this first. Go ahead.
Okay, C4C is a SAP acquired a company called Hybris, then renamed the CRM, their on-prem CRM, and putting the C4C as a cloud. And in that ECC and C4C, there is a multiple integration touch points. SAP is one called SAP PIPO. You can use HANA Cloud integrations. But nowadays, SAP is also giving a lot of benefits to other cloud, the public cloud, on the integration touch points. So let's say, example, if you are moving lift and shift scenario, all these integration touch point remains same, because cloud is helping masking all these internal network the integration touch points in the environment and helping the customer easy lift and shift. So lift and shift is like as it is, putting on the cloud, make it simple for the customer, onboarding on the cloud, and later on, let's example, you C4C is there, some of the custom application they're developing on SAP data platform, custom development. So they use that custom application. They can use SAP ECC, they can use SuccessFactors, they can use the C4HANA, Ariba, whatever the solutions are there. The integration capabilities is supported by all the public cloud, including IBM. And IBM will help on the different areas, like say custom application on OpenShift, like I while mentioned, and Pandina's also mentioned some of the use cases on IoT space, industrial IoT, which we can use DevOps applications. So I think there is no challenge on the integrations when you take your on-prem environment to the cloud. We will take it. That's the reason I mentioned assessment is very critical activities. If you take care of all the inventory information, touch points, you have a right partner, then there is no problem at all, because the partner will take care of the right job, validate with the public cloud. IBM, I work very closely with Weil. So we will make sure we are giving a proper solution. We are more technical, not getting into the sales discussion. We'll take the information directly from the system. early watch alert report, integration touch points, S4HANA, how you did the integration, how we'll take care of that, what's the application modernization in the future. So all this discussion comes from the advisory and assessment exercise.
Thank you, Sandeep. Anything you would like to touch on, Pandian, over there?
No, I agree with
C4C.
Sandeep on this.
Okay.
Arun, definitely assessment is a critical step to understand what customer has got currently and where he wants to go. Assessment is key, and then that's where BRAMs play a leading role in doing that kind of strategic advice, and based on the assessment of the customer, based on the strategic direction of where the customer wants to go.
While anything you would like to add before I field the last question?
No, I think I would like to just echo the same. It's crucial to have the right partner who has the right skills and experience. With the backing of the vendor like IBM and BRAMS, this is a crucial recipe to ensure the success of the project. So I agree with the team.
Okay, thank you. So the last question, and then we move to the key takeaways and close the session. This one is relatively easy compared to the previous questions. What will happen to existing HCM module while moving to S4HANA? How about existing Fiori applications, which you mentioned, Sandeep, which we are using with the on-premises gateway application? So go ahead, let's start with you, Sandeep.
Okay, so on the application side, when we work for SAP HCM, so in HCM there is a core HCM is there, and then ESS and MSS is also there, which is on the enterprise portal. So we need to understand the landscape for enterprise portal. All this is supported by any of the cloud when we go on the lift and shift scenario, because we are taking a workload and we're supporting the application. So it's the underlying infrastructure. Yes, I agree with you. Most of the time, customer is taking a decision of the infrastructure based on the application need, right? So in application, if ERP is there, HCM is there. In HCM, two sections are there: core HCM, which is a payroll, personal administration, organization management, payroll, as well as time management. These are the four sub modules are there in core HCM. On top of it, there is a ESS and an MSS. So if people are using ESS and MSS, so then people will be using enterprise portal as an infrastructure. Most of the time people using nowadays success factor, because SAP is doing new development on success factor every quarter they're giving release on the cloud. So when we go for SAP ERP core HCM, we will understand the environment, enterprise portal is there or not, integration is native integration between ECC and payroll. Everything will be remain same. We don't need to worry about application side, because we are actually giving underlying infrastructure. We are not touching upon the application layer. But I agree, some of the areas where when we go for assessment, we need to make sure you understand both of the world, SAP infrastructure and application need. So an application, because that is at the interfacing between the business as well as the end the business users. The application is in between. So we need to make sure that's a critical assessment exercise. My end user will be accessing, the experience remains same. All this will be a part of the assessment, and there is no problem if ESS, MSS is there, HCM is there, BW is there, PIPO is there, or any other landscape is there. That's not at all a problem. We need to understand this landscape, which is a part of the assessment activities.
Thank you, Sandeep. So, Pandian, anything you want to add over there?
No, I think Sandeep covered it very well, Arun.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, while anything from your side on this particular question?
I think it's okay. I also agree with Sandeep.
Okay, fantastic. So with this, we come to the end of the session. But before we do that, I just want to invite all three of you to give your key takeaways and any recommendations for the attendees. So starting with yourself, Mr. Pandian, I think you in the slides, you had a very good understanding of all the global case studies and the migrations to IBM Cloud. What would you like to share as your key takeaways for the attendees? Go ahead, Pandian.
I think the first step is going to be what is the company's strategic direction is going to it's a company wants to go for the complete digital transformation, whether they want to leverage the technologies, what is coming up in the IoT or data analytics or AI. I mean, once they have the clear picture, where they want to go, then they can worry about, okay, which model I want to keep, where I want to go, where can I do it on ECC, can I do it on S4HANA? All those things are expert partners like BRAMS is available to guide it. But the key point is going to be have the strategy ready, work with your partner to do the assessment, and then pick IBM SAP Cloud, where we know how the large enterprises operate, and then we have the robust infrastructure for running your applications. I think to very at the simple step, Arun, know where you want to go, work with the right partner, choose IBM SAP Cloud to run your SAP. I think very simple 3 steps. While
Absolutely fascinating. Yes, absolutely brilliant best practices. Thank you, Pandian. While IBM Cloud is a huge repertoire of services in the cloud and in-depth deep dive for security and encryption and literally caters to all aspects of cloud migration, what sort of key takeaways would you like to share?
Absolutely, Arun. I think the key message I'd like to give here is, when you consider a lift and shift on the cloud, this is not your destination. This is your first step in a journey to the cloud. And to really reap the benefits of the cloud, you have to look at the next steps, how you leverage the cloud native capabilities. It's a huge catalog. There's a lot of advantages in the cloud, a lot of optimizations you can run. Lift and shift is just the first step. Make sure you have a clear view of your roadmaps, your journey, and work with a good partner that understands these capabilities. It will support you in the long term.
Thank you. Well, so Sandeep, last in the line, huge experience base from Brams and yourself. What sort of key takeaways do you want to share with the attendees? Go ahead.
Considering the current situation, I'm working very closely with the customer. The first priority for them is nowadays the cost optimization, and definitely cloud is really helping a lot on this particular topic. But we need to take in a proper way. We need to have a proper CIO strategy, considering the business. What are the business imperatives? What exactly as Pandit clearly stated, that you need to have a clear understanding where you want to go in the digital transformation story, right, and transformation areas. So considering all those situations, the first step is very easy. The cost optimization is the infrastructure putting on the cloud, because you're not committing immediate cost to the infrastructure refresh. Second, you are coming with the flexible payment methods, and you have a flexibility on the infrastructure as well. So if there is a digital transformation, any needs are there in the business, because you never know, in 3 months there people will be saying, we, like in pandemic situation, people are saying we need immediate working from home scenario. In cloud's quite easy, infrastructure is quite difficult. So considering the current situation, there has to be a proper roadmap from the CIO, at least for a year, and that roadmap will be easily achievable with the cloud, because people are looking at artificial intelligence with SAP. IBM Watson is there, RPA things are there already. So the infrastructure is supporting underlying the application infrastructure, and application is supporting the business problem to be solved. So we need to identify that this first year digital, what's my business problem in the organization, and how we can solve, and how cloud is actually accelerating to solve that problem. Then that's the, I think, best option nowadays for define the proper roadmap. It's a quite SAP terminology. All the CIOs are talking about. SAP is also talking about. But it's a right way to make a 1 year roadmap, clear picture, what intend to do, how they can optimize the IT budget for a year. And cloud will help in the flexible payments. In the pandemic situation, people are struggling to commit immediate costs. So cloud will definitely help in these areas.
So thank you, Sandeep. I think we're across the three of you, Pandian, Well, and Sandeep, absolutely end-to-end deep dive on how enterprises can migrate their SAP solutions from on-premise to the cloud. And I'm sure there should be some interest in availing the services of both IBM Cloud and partners such as Sandeep. Yes, Sandeep, you want to say something?
Yeah, just sharing one of the use case, because we have been working for the big landscape where HANA is there. So what we have seen on the infrastructure perspective, HANA is quite need a quite expensive appliances, right? So because it's an in-memory database, and SAP is recommending go for only certified environment. So IBM Cloud is helping over there, number one. On the application level, as Brahms, we can help to optimize the native service can be utilized in HANA itself to optimize the cost. So that infrastructure it would be lesser than the use.
Okay, thanks for the add-on. I hope it adds value to the attendees. And with that note, I would need to close the session. On behalf of Global CIO Forum, Ingram Micro, Brands, and IBM here, I thank all the attendees for sitting through this 60+ minutes of absolutely engaging content and discussion. Look forward to seeing you again. Goodbye and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you, team.